Okay, boys. So we got a huge guest on the interview today. This is a new series I'm trying to start up by doing, kind of interviewing some top dogs in the space, online business space. So first of all, we got Warren Mulvey here. So Warren, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of who you are and how you kind of got here in the first place?
Yeah, quite a loaded question. If I was to give you the elevator pitch, my name's Warren Mulvey. I'm Irish. I'm from Cavan in the middle of nowhere in Ireland, and I live full time in Central Europe in Milan. I run a couple of different companies. One's Affinity Sales Training. We train sales reps on how to get better at sales, communication, getting a role, and also I run a distribution company out in California.
Cool. So tell us about AST because obviously too, and I know it's like a huge part of kind of your brand and what you do. Tell us more about that, kind of how it started and where you kind of want to take that in 2025.
Yeah, good question. AST is something that really wasn't meant to happen, to be honest. I didn't want to be somebody who just like sold courses and I made a lot of money from courses, and I haven't really. That's why we have it as a subscription basis. And even at the very beginning, it was free for like 8 months to literally show like that we didn't really care about how much we made from it at all. It was more so we just wanted sales reps because we're running a couple different offers at the same time, and commission only sales reps they do churn. So it's like, okay, do I want to get somebody random from Twitter or do I want to have somebody who I'm already training twice a week? So for me, it was just leverage. It was building the brand. It was getting some reps from my team. And then three, it just kind of like transpired into this nearly like cult-like group in a sense where we're all working towards just becoming better people overall, not just in sales. If I could change the name, I would change it to Affinity University, not just Affinity Sales Training, because there's so much in there and it's not just all about sales. But yeah, it just kind of it exploded ba on the basis of we'd love to have more of our reps for ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. I like the way you kind of mentioned that, like Affinity University, because one of the biggest things that I take away from being an AST is the network part of it. Like meeting up with boys, one of the fellas I met in there only like a few months ago, we're already going away like on a trip, and we'll probably move away to Marbella with him.
That's
So the network aspect of it is like it's insane. So I think anyone who kind of is from Ireland, obviously AST is like your kind of gold mine to getting started with like online business, online sales,
mm,
and networking. Like
mm,
the events that kind of you host too. I know the one in Milan and obviously the one in Dublin there now. What kind
mm.
of inspired you to, I suppose, move away to Milan, do the event in Milan and things like that?
Yeah, good question. Because for those of you that don't know, James actually came out to our event in October, just gone, out in Milan. I think I gave you guys a challenge to hit with your business, and they hit it. And they texted me on WhatsApp saying we did it. We're coming out to Milan. So that was good to see. It was good to have a bit of a challenge and a reward at the end of it. They came out. We spent the whole weekend in Milan. We had a couple of guest speakers, dinners, play some paddle and stuff like that. But um. Yeah, AST and the que main question, what was the question again?
What kind of inspired you to kind of have or basically move your base over to Milan?
Oh, the base over to Milan. That was, I find that like throughout this story, right, a lot of th things just kind of happen on accident. But if you go back to the richest man in Babylon, he believes that opportunity is everywhere, but the man has to be ready for the opportunity. And so I went to visit Milan like 18 months ago at this point, and it was literally just for 2 weeks. Had a couple friends out there. I went out with Josh, one of my friends, and I kind of just fell in love with it, to be honest. Stayed extended Airbnb for another 4 weeks, another 4 weeks. Came home for a week, another 4 weeks out there, and I just decided, hey, I think this is for me. Like I do love the beach. I do love being near water, but I get a much higher reward by putting it off. Because I feel like if there was a beach, I'd always go to it. Like yourself, you're going to Portugal, you're going to Albufeira, maybe going to Marbella with one of the guys in Affinity. I feel like if I was there, I would be going to the beach every day. And I don't know if that would be a distraction or not. I mean, I used to live at the beach in Spain before living in Milan, so I've kind of seen the two different sides of it. But Milan is definitely A good place to one network because I feel like it's like the London of Europe. If anybody's looking to kind of just go to a place where you just work, essentially, I think Milan is that place for me. I mean, you can definitely go to Marbella. There's a lot more English speaking entrepreneurs out there, but in Milan, for example, you get to meet the whole of Central Europe and all of their entrepreneurs. And I've literally just been compounding over in itself in the last like 2 months. I think I've met at least like 10, 15 new people added to the network. But and what did you think of it? I mean, you came out for a whole weekend.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it so much. Um I was in like one of the shops and I bought like a statue of the Duomo Cathedral.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm putting that on my bedside locker. I'm gonna look at it every night and kind of move there. That's gonna be like my vision. So I've been looking at that every night. So I'm definitely gonna be moving there soon. It's either there or Marbella, but honestly, I liked Milan, and I really like the way you said the work aspect of it because I think it was me and Jason and Colin went over to your house.
Yep.
I think it was the day we were leaving, and there
Yep.
was like five, six, seven boys just like all in the house just working on the laptops. So yeah, it's like the environment there is crazy and
hmm
obviously nice place to eat. Where was that place we went to eat there?
Gloria Osteria is one of the best places in Milan. But
Mm,
you made a good point because for me personally, it doesn't matter where I live as long as there's four or five other people that are also working and online. Like we went to Marbella twice this year. I mean, I actually visited 16 countries, and this is a year where I didn't really want to travel that much. And
crazy.
um, it was just one of those places where it was one of those realizations that like no matter where I am, as long as I'm with a couple of the lads, I don't really care. I'll get my work done. I'll have some fun.
Mm.
Well, for you, like, what's going on with business? How's business going on your side?
It's going good. So big plans for 2025, obviously for us, Mailer and Scalesify. So
Yeah.
we're launching some inboxes, pre-warmed inboxes. These are like Google inboxes too. So we have private SMT inboxes and the Google inboxes.
Okay.
Basically, just cold email. If anyone doesn't know exactly what I do, is cold email. Um, so yeah, that's currently what I'm doing. And honestly, I spent the last like few days looking over my goals and kind of setting those goals and kind of the vision for 2025. What's your opinions on kind of people who set goals, and what do you think the best way is to set goals for 2025? Because I know we talked over the DMs about like setting goals and stuff. What do you think the best way to do that is?
Yeah, good question. Everybody asks this at this time. It's funny people ask this at this time of the year, not throughout the year, right? And for me, New Year's resolutions has always kind of been a facade, like a way to kind of like get you motivated for 1 or 2 weeks. But motivation fizzles out. It always does. But like what stays is discipline. Like what habits do you have on a daily basis? When do you go to bed? When do you get up? Do you go do a workout? Do you do the extra bit of work? Like what do you actually do on a daily basis? That'll get you there. So I believe in habits will get you to your goals. I don't believe in writing them down. Well, writing them down obviously makes you realize, okay, what am I striving towards? And why am I doing all these habits? And what does that do for me when I get them? But it's really the habits on a daily basis that gets you there. So for me, whenever I'm looking to hit a goal, like for example, with the distribution company, we scaled to literally from zero to like 300K a month. And that was all just through saying, hey, what would a company do at 500,000 or 1 million a month on a daily basis? What would we do on a daily basis to get there? And slowly reality just kind of creeps up. That's been in my entire motto throughout these last 2 years, where you can literally be the creator of your reality, but your reality is now. It's not 2 weeks in it from now. It's not a month from now. It's now. Like, what are you doing now to get towards it? The power of now. Like, for example, we have a podcast on New Year's Eve, and like we could just really say no to it if we really didn't want to, right? We could just say, no, I'm just going to skip that. I'm not going to put that hour in. But missing it one day is a mistake. Missing it 2 days is a start of a new habit.
Mm.
What do you think of that?
That's really powerful, man. That's really powerful. Something that I actually done while writing down while kind of writing down my three main goals for 2025 is I wrote down like a list of habits I need to do every day to kind of get there in the first place.
Okay.
And I still need to print it out. Now I wrote it down in the Google Doc, but like for example, waking up early, waking up at 6 a.m. every day, like
Yeah.
waking up instantly, getting into some work, and then going into my morning routine, like hitting the ice bath, praying for a bit, and things like that. And those are kind of the habits that I need to get done in order to like achieve those goals and
Yep.
kind of accomplish that. So what's some of the goals you had last year that you did accomplish, and if you could do anything like different, what would that be?
Yeah, good question. I do a lot of business goals and personal. I perhaps I'll go through both. But with business, I did hit most of what I wanted to do. For example, with the business goals, I wanted to start a company that would scale past 100K a month and pretty much obliterate, just destroyed that really.
Smash that. Yeah.
And other business goals, I don't really remember. I just remember thinking like, what's that one thing? What's that company that will help me scale? One, obviously income, but two, a team. Right? We have a large team. We have like eight, nine people on the team. So like when I win, we win. And when we win, I win. And so I think it's gonna be huge going into next year with the goals of like saying, hey, it's actually the team that's going to take us to 1.5 million a month. That's the commonality with the other business. It's not just going to be me. It's not just going to be my partner. It's not going to be one sales rep. It's going to be a couple. And so, personal goals, I did want to visit a lot of countries, which I did. I wanted to start a piano and kickboxing. And ironically, I'm starting both next week. And so I kind of put them off, but for like good reason in a sense. I was just kind of more focused on business than personal, but I really want to learn the piano. I really want to start fighting. I think it's like one of those core things that you need to know
Mm,
as a human, especially if you get into like a rough scenario, right? If you don't know how to defend yourself, it's not going to end
yeah.
well.
You know what's really funny? Well, a few months ago, I was like thinking of starting kickboxing exactly because there's one of the kickboxing clubs like 10 minutes from where I live,
You should.
and I was thinking of starting that. And now that you say that, like you actually need to fight. You need to know how to fight.
You need to know, like,
So
what if you're with your girl and you're traveling and then somebody tries to rob you? Not even at knife point, like they're just trying to rob you. What are you going to do? Are you going to freeze up like a little bitch? Or are you going to defend yourself? Right?
yeah,
And we've
yeah,
seen this, but I can defend myself, by the way. I'm not saying that I can. I'm not openly stating on a podcast that I can't defend myself, but there's definitely people that are better than me at fighting. I don't like the idea of that. Like when you're walking around and somebody knows that they could just beat the shit out of you, I really don't like other people thinking that. So I'm like, hey, just eliminate it, just start fighting.
yeah. That's a good point. That's a really good point. One of my resolutions for 2025 was actually to learn the guitar too. And we actually have like pretty similar learn kickboxing and learn an instrument. So
Mhm.
I've already started that, but definitely gonna be learning kickboxing.
Let's go. I think it's so important because like when you do one challenging thing in the morning, you really, really take over the day. You really you win the morning, win the day is what I always say. Kind of what you just said a moment ago, where you get up at 6 a.m. Now my sleep schedule's a bit all over the place. I work in PST hours, so it's a little bit it's a little bit
Yeah,
harder
that's
to get up
crazy.
at those times, but win the morning, win the day. I mean, that's a habit of its own. And so somebody in Ireland who does do really well probably does that. So that's one of those habits, right? Get up early, be prepped, be prepared, be ready. Show up to trainings. I need you on more AST trainings.
Yeah, for sure. One tonight, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. One at 6 p.m.
Yeah,
Boy,
I'll see you there.
um,
I'll see you there, man.
yeah, no other goals. I think there's obviously a couple personal goals as well elsewhere to that, but like going into 2025, looking back in 2024, I really don't care so much about not hitting some of those because of what I did hit. And it was more of like a stacking year, right? That was like no, basically my third year in sales, but my second year in business, which is dip. Well, I would say my first full 12 months in business.
Hmm.
Um, it's only going to compound in itself, right? You know, you visit 16 countries, cool. But like each year, it's been compounding on itself. I fully believe if you just have the mindset of every year, it's for the taking and it's literally going to compound on the previous year. Like, why would it be worse? It wouldn't be worse. In what world would it be worse? And a friend of mine actually told me about this. But a lot of people are paranoid about not hitting their goals or like worried and anxious about it. But the opposite to it is pronoia, right? It describes like
Seen
a
that.
state of mind where you believe that everything that's happening around you and everything that you're experiencing is happening for you in a good way.
Mm.
So,
Seen that on David's Instagram.
yes, exactly. And if you live by that, like everything really does, like even if something terrible, right? I missed a flight this year to LA and I had to get one the next day. But the only thought I had was, I'm super curious how this works out in my favor. Like why did God do that? Like what's going to happen that's going to make this a great experience and show me why it happened in a good way for me. I can't remember why, but I do remember tying something to it that happened. But oh, I actually closed a client or something like that, I really wanted to, but and I wouldn't have been able to if I was on the flight. Just wouldn't have been able to. And when you have that mindset, like you're just unstoppable. You really are. And it's a constant battle of like you versus you in your mind all the time. Like you look at a great example of this who preached it throughout his career was Conor McGregor. He had an iron mind up until he started stopped fighting. Now his brand is drinking whiskey and drinking and stout, and then ironically, when you do have brands like that, you kind of have to drink a small bit of it, or else people are gonna be like, "Why do you have drink brands and you don't even drink yourself?" And I feel like that's sent him down a spiral, down into a bad way mentally. And you can see he doesn't talk about it anymore. He doesn't talk about the law of attraction. He doesn't talk about it at all.
Yeah, he's cooked now.
What about you? Do you believe in the law of attraction, all that good jazz?
I do. I'm not sure if you know him, but me and Jason are big believers of him. He was one of my mentors back probably 2 years ago. He's called John Gab,
Okay.
and he talks a lot about having a vision, like having a reason why, and like reading over that every day. And like if you can like vision it in your head, like sit down for 10 minutes. I seen you post about this recently actually too. It's like sitting with yourself in silence and like just like listening to your thoughts. But if you can just sit there in your silence, like with a vision, you vision yourself like achieving that goal or like doing that thing that will make you feel like so fulfilled.
Hmm.
Like it will happen eventually. So you just gotta keep on kind of visioning your own success. Obviously,
Good.
law of attraction too.
And
So
you,
100%, man.
and you know you're going to Portugal now in a couple of days for a couple of days. Portugal is the first place that Josh and I like tried to do like online business online and well away from home and with a way of trying to make income while we're in a different country. And I remember being on the balcony and saying, imagine if we could do this full time, live in a different country and do that. And we just sat there and we were thinking the power of silence. As you said, like some people don't want to be alone in their thoughts because their thoughts are the one thing that are killing them. Right? Your thoughts can either build you up to be the highest person in the fucking universe, or they can break you down to be the person to the point where you want to commit suicide. It all comes from inner thoughts and the way you think and the way you see yourself and the way you perceive life overall.
Mm.
And so some people don't want that. But I think the power of thinking comes down to knowing what thoughts to listen to.
Yeah, like I think most people don't realize how powerful the mind is
Hmm.
and how much it can either ruin a man or like make a man. It's like it's just all in your mind. Like everything is just a mind game, like the whole universe, which is like it's crazy. And I think once someone actually learns about that, even there's some good material on YouTube to learn about it, but obviously reading books is probably the first part to learn about things like that. Um, yeah, the mind is crazy. I wanted to dive more deep into kind of your journey
Okay.
and what you were doing before, because I know you had, or you used to have, was a PT, a personal training business.
Used to have a couple of different things, dude. I was that guy that tried anything and everything, really. Like, cause I was in McDonald's from like 16 to 19. I was flipping
Mm.
burgers. I was that guy who was like, make sure the fries are in the bag, and I was putting the fries in the bag. And after that, but like during that time, I did build up a good habit of like investing and like putting money aside, putting it into stocks. But then one day I just did the numbers and I was like, fuck, if I'm only investing this amount, by the time I'm 30 and I want to have a couple of kids, like it's not even gonna be paying me that much, but it's not even gonna give me enough to like actually say, oh, this can help me support my family. So I was like, shit, the issue is I need to figure out how to make more money, not how can I save more money, right? People
Yeah,
are in this thought process of, oh, save, 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 save. No. Yes, be frugal in a sense, but if you're thinking like saving all the time, you just leave room to not think about, hey, how can I just make more? It's like that meme where it's like boy math. So I went through this process and I started drop shipping, lost a lot of money because you're not allowed to drop ship Amazon products on eBay. I went through, I started trading. That wasn't too fun. I was down like 40%, but we forget about that. I started a gym. I did start some PT. And before I started the gym, kind of like what you said earlier in the call, where people don't like to be alone in their thoughts, and sometimes you just need to be in silence. I actually went to Italy for like 6 weeks on this course where all I was doing was like playing football with these kids, and it was like a camp. And I had a lot of time to think because I was in college at the time. I was going down a path I didn't really like because like you're studying for 6 years, you earn 30K a year. I was like, how am I going to support myself? Never mind four kids on that. And when it comes down to the next steps from there, I was like, I just need to get into business. And like one of the guys there was like, you talk about business to stocks all the time. Why don't you start your own company? So I did. Next week, started a company, built a shed, spent 4K on it, and just went into it. Now, I did one PT session and I realized I don't think this is for me and stopped it completely. Which, look, it is what it is, but I don't regret it because it taught me a lot. It taught me about planning, it taught me
mm,
about thinking ahead. Is this actually for me? Is this something I actually want to do? Does this align with my long-term goals? Because my long-term goals at the time were actually to move abroad. So why would I set up a gym? Remember, the power of
yeah,
thinking comes down to knowing what thoughts to listen to. And then I just kind of stumbled into sales. Went to Phone Watch, started selling alarms door to door in Ireland, alarms that nobody wanted, but I was still like top 10 in the company after like 30 days, and I hadn't sold anything before. And by the way, I was a bit more of an introvert growing up, to be honest. Although like my family's a bit more extroverted, we do all get along, we I do talk to a lot of people. I was a bit more inherently introverted. I was always like I was like playing PlayStation, for example, and just like chilling out and doing nothing. And aside from like sports, but when I went into to sales, it was just super easy, super easy. I did that for like 9 months. Went into air, started selling Wi-Fi, just changing people on the packages, which was good. It was top five in the country already in air after 3, 4 months. But then I realized, hey, there's kind of a cap to how much you can earn. There's only so many doors that you can knock during the week, and so there's a cap to how much you can earn. And then I was knocking doors, and it was like -5 degree weather in December. I said, no, I need to change up. So I just quit. I knew I had enough money to last like at least the next 6 months. And I was like, okay, if I make nothing work, at least I know I tried. And went back in, joined a company, made no money for like 2 weeks, joined a different company. And after 2 weeks in it, I went from booking calls to closing deals to managing the entire company and taking it from 100K a month to 400K a month. And I did that for like I did that for like 5, 6 months. And
mm,
after that, I decided, hey, I want to get into my own business because I feel like the natural progression as a sales rep is people want to book calls, they want to close deals, they want to because you go from making like 2, 3K a month in SDRing to, if you guys don't know what SDRing means, it's like booking calls for closers to close the deals. A closer making anywhere between 5 to 10K. And then they're like, shit, there's like a cap. Again, you meet this roadblock where there's like a certain amount that you can make. Do I go into management? Do I start my own company? I went into management, which was cool. I mean, management is a whole different skill in itself compared to closing deals. And I learned a lot. But going from there into running your own company, I quickly realized that like running your own company, you're wearing like seven, eight, 10 different hats at the same time. And you have to get used to that. You have to get used to being really, really, really good at one thing, but overall good at so many other different things. Organizing, accounts, finances, operations, marketing, sales, all together. Because you don't have money to hire it out. And if you do, and if it's a small portion of capital, you're going to run out of money pretty quickly unless you close deals. And so
Mm,
I was kind of in this period, James, where kind of like similar to yourself, I was in agency, I was doing email, and thought to myself, like, is this it? Is this really all I'm destined towards? And then I went to a real estate conference in January. I met my business partner, and ever since then, it's been just been an upward spiral to 300K a month and beyond, really. I mean, the sky's the limit. I want to hit 1 million in February. Now I know that, you aim for 1 million, you might hit 700, you might hit 500, you might hit 400, but it's definitely going to be more than 300. And so,
mm. Aim for this or shoot for the stars, land on the moon.
exactly, exactly. So that's kind of the goal of what I'm looking at. And I don't know, that was a long explanation, but I hope that made sense.
Yeah, 100%. To go over the personal training thing you've done, like I would, or if I was in your shoes, I'd like consider yourself like luckier than most people because if most people were in your shoes, they'd probably say like, "Oh, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to spend 4 years on a college course," and after 4 years, they'd be like, "I actually hate doing this," and then scrap the whole thing, spending thousands on accommodation or whatever.
Yes,
And whereas,
that's go on, go on, go on. Keep going.
so yeah, so the fact that you only spent, I don't know how long it was, probably like a few months
About a
setting
year
up even a year,
in
setting up the
college.
shed and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and 4K to kind of buy the shed and stuff like that. Like a lot of people would spend 4 years just to kind of figure out what you figured out.
Yeah.
Like you didn't actually want to do that.
Yeah. And you made a good point because not a lot of people, James, and you'll find this out the further you grow up, not a lot of people can like think for themselves. They really can't. They can't have like a unique thought related to themselves. They're always externalizing, right? You might see it sometimes where like some people go on a date. I hate to call them NPCs, but like they'll go on a date and you'll hear them, and all you can hear is they're talking about their favorite bands, movies. They're not talking about anything about themselves, anything that they do, anything that they strive towards their goals. For you to have goals and ambitions, you're already setting yourself apart from like 80% of people. Because people have goals, but like, did they ever do anything towards them? No. So you're already separating yourself from them. And I very quickly realized that everybody in my course hated it. Hated it. And I sat there and I was like, if everybody hates this, right? Including myself. Now, hate's a strong word. I had a strong disliking towards it simply by the fact of earning potential at the end of it. It just didn't
Hmm.
equate to how much time I had to put into it. I was like, why don't I just leave? Like, what? Seriously, if I dropped out of college, is that really the worst case scenario? And it really wasn't because I could go into sales. I realized that like all these businesses, although they do want experience and sometimes they do want people with a degree. I mean, if you're hiring based on a degree, I think you're an imbecile because there's
Yeah,
far better talent out there that's waiting for your position.
yeah. A good example of that would be like after about a year and a half of being in business and like running a cold email agency, I've never once got asked for a degree. I'm sure you haven't either. Never once got asked for a degree. Never once even got asked if I finished school or nothing. So you
Hmm.
don't need a degree to make an online business and
Yeah.
especially sales too. If there was one last thing, if there was a guy, say he's 18, 19 years old, and probably in a similar position or a similar situation as you were in, you know, hating college, thinking of dropping out. would you recommend them to start a business or to get into sales and develop as a sales rep?
That's a great question. That is a great question, James, because I actually spoke on this at our event in Milan. And a lot of people think they need to go into business to begin with, but as I mentioned earlier, you need to really be great at one thing and good at the rest in order to actually run a business. And oftentimes you're great at one thing, you're terrible at the rest, and you kind of just like upskill yourself and everything else to make sure that you're up to par with the amount of clients that you're taking on. But I would highly recommend anybody to get into a startup environment or even a corporate environment, see how they manage their company, see how they manage their staff, see how they manage clients, and keep the relationships with them. Not a lot of people talk about like actually genuinely keeping relationships with your clients. I spoke to a client yesterday and he said that the day he signed on with us, he got robbed out of like a couple thousand with another company. I was like, geez, I could not imagine a world where we ever did something like that. And he said, that's what set you guys apart. You just genuinely care. And it's funny when you genuinely care, you'll separate yourself in business. But to get back to your point, I would highly recommend anybody just getting into sales. If you look at any billionaire, I think 80% of them began in direct sales and then went on to build their companies and then went on to scale their operations and then went on to become a billionaire. So I'm not saying that tomorrow you'll become a billionaire by starting in sales. I would just say that naturally I'm a bit more of an inquisitive, inquisitive person. Inquisitive? Is that the right word? Inquisitive?
Inquisitive.
No, it's I'll think of the word in a second, but I always ask why. Like why do billionaires start sales? That was the question I remember asking myself when I was sitting there in Italy. Why do they always do that? But it makes sense. They're learning how to communicate, they're learning how to talk to people, they're learning how to not convince, but understand their clients. Like the greatest
Yeah.
element of the human being is they just want to be understood when it comes to sales. And I hate to throw all the sauce away, but that's literally what we just throw or teach in Affinity is like if you just understand the person in front of you, you'll be able to sell to anyone because they'll tell you why they want it. They'll tell you why they need it now. They'll tell you in what time frame. And they'll tell you who's involved. And then you can reframe if you need to. But like if you just understand them, you'll learn a lot more. You'll close a lot more
Yeah,
deals.
that's huge. And I think one of the reasons, well, if I was to guess, one of the reasons most like billionaires start off in sales is because sales is like the key aspect to a business, I would say anyway. It's like if you know how to talk to people, obviously close clients and how good have good communication, obviously your business is going to do well if you can just fulfill those clients. So it is obviously the main fundamental of a business.
Yeah, exactly.
For for 2025, Warren, AST, when's the next event?
Great, great question. We are aiming at the end of March. We're thinking of doing a ski trip where we'll do like a little event at the very start where I think we'll talk about the goals for Q2 at that point. Like how can you properly plan, how you can properly get your team ready. I have a whole deck prepared for my team to deliver to them today, getting them hyped up for Q1. And then we'll ski for the rest of the weekend. So I think we're aiming to do that the last weekend in March because after that I'm actually flying to Argentina for a month. So either the third or last weekend in March we'll be doing that ski trip, and then throughout the year I don't know. We do a lot of trips. I mean, this year just gone, we've done loads. I mean, we went to Milan, obviously, as we mentioned, we did a charity event in August. We raised a lot of money for men's mental health in Ireland. We met up somewhere else in Dublin, I believe in like April, March time. And then also in December, we did 12 pubs. Right? So like anybody listening to this might be thinking, oh shit, this guy might be on a different pedestal just because he's raised his business and got it up to 300K a month. But no, like I'm just another human being. Like James was at the Christmas dinner with us. Literally, 30 of us having some food, having a good time, having some drinks. A bunch of lads who just want to get better. And I don't really know, James. All I know for a fact is we have a ski trip in March, and that's what I've been telling myself every day.
Yeah,
Will I see you there?
that's insane. 100%. I'm gonna have to persuade my mom to let me go with the moving ceremony.
Let's go. Let's go. I
I'll
can
be
pull
there.
it
I'll be there.
off.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna give her your number, man. Don't worry.
I
Yeah.
wasn't asking for that, but I
Just
mean,
to
go for it, go for
No,
it.
you're good, man. You're good. Just to kind of conclude on AST in general, like all the events, or I've been at two of the events, so the Milan event, the Dublin event, like it's genuinely been like such an enjoyable experience because you're having fun, you're hanging out with these boys, plus you're getting work done and you're learning a shit ton. So
Mhm.
it's like it's the perfect combination if you're like kind of like minded. It's the perfect combination for all boys. So Warren, do you want to kind of wrap things up by telling these people where to find you? Where's the best place to find you? Twitter, YouTube, Instagram.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm sure you'll put everything in the description, but my main audience and where you'll see me a lot is on Twitter. So it's just Warren Mulvey 02 at the end, and then all of my other socials are the same with just Warren Mulvey. The YouTube is Warren.Mulvey because Warren Mulvey wasn't available, but um, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram are the main platforms to see me on.
Let's go. Let's go.
Oh,
I'll be seeing you. I'll be seeing you on the training tonight, man.
yes. See you on training tonight. Scrimmage. We all hop into a couple different groups, practice one objection. I don't know what objections you've been getting this week, James, or if you've even been taking calls, but I'm excited to see you on that one.
Yes,
And I
sir.
appreciate you
All
having me
right.
on the
In a bit.
channel. I really think in 2025, if you really keep consistent, one, two YouTube videos a day, like why don't you blow up? I mean, you're 18, you're still in secondary school, you're running two businesses. If anything, you're an inspiration. If I was doing all of this at 18, I really don't know where I'd be now. Because I only started at 20, by the way. I really only started at 20. So you're doing all this at 18. You're traveling the world. You're going to Milan. Like, kudos to yourself. I'm sure 12 months ago, you probably didn't think that you'd be in the position now. So really put the pedal on the gas in 2025.
I appreciate that, Warren. I appreciate that. I will. No days off in 2025.
Sounds good, James. Sounds good. Appreciate it.
So, all right. In a bit.
Ciao, ciao.